Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. The domestic season is done and dusted now. Now we turn to the Nations League. It's a tournament. England are in it, so it is important. And it is important. It doesn't have history, but one day it will have history. And who will be its first ever winners? What do we know about Uruguayan football? Very little, but we know they won the World Cup in 1930. So this could be us. We could be Uruguay. I'm going to go through the England squad that Gareth Southgate has picked for the semi-final against the Netherlands. I'm going to have a look at the Netherlands squad as well. And I'm going to give you my England 11, the team that I would play in this game. There's so many complications to the squad and the possible starting 11, so I will give my 2 pennies worth to Gareth Southgate, and he can choose to use it or not. He probably won't. And that's okay. I'm not the one wearing the waistcoat. Gareth Southgate initially picked a 28-man squad. He's now got a 23-man squad. Let's have a quick look at who he went with in the end. In goal, Jordan Pickford, Jack Butland or Tom Heaton. Pretty happy with all 3 of those. I think they're the best 3 that we've got at the moment. Into defence, and we've got ourselves Kyle Walker, Danny Rose, Eric Dyer, John Stones, Harry Maguire, Joe Gomez, Ben Chilwell, Michael Keane and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So what you're going to see now, and it's littered throughout this England squad, are a couple of problems. One being players who haven't been playing that regularly for their clubs. People like John Stones, Joe Gomez, Eric Dyer. Those kind of players are players that Gareth Southgate likes a lot. Eric Dyer has actually played a hell of a lot for England in recent games and started games for England recently. But he hasn't been playing that much for Spurs. Same goes for Joe Gomez, same goes for John Stones. The second problem you've got is the Champions League final. There's a lot of players here in that Liverpool and Spurs squad that have had to come straight from that Champions League final. Some will be euphoric, some will be devastated, both will probably be emotionally drained. And by the time they meet up with the England squad, it's probably going to be Tuesday. The game's going to be on Thursday. So that's a factor that Gareth Southgate is going to have to keep in mind. Moving into midfield, and again, we've got the same kind of problem. People like Ross Barkley haven't played a huge amount of football. Fabian Delph, when we're talking about favourites. For Gareth Southgate, Fabian Delph is clearly one of his favourites. I think he offers a lot in terms of his leadership as well as anything else as one of the sort of older heads. But people like Harry Winks, who I think they would have been nervous about because of his groin injury, but he played the Champions League final. He's someone who you could have put in, especially when you've got people like Eric Dyer, who's one of the defenders, but can also play in midfield. And then you've got players like Jesse Lingard and Ross Barkley, players who haven't played consistently, and more importantly, consistently well. I think James Maddison's got to be really annoyed at not being in this squad. I think the understanding thing is that Gareth Southgate wants to stick with these guys that he's given a chance with, and he's built this kind of rapport in the squad. James Maddison will be involved as time goes on, but he's also got another 21 tournament that he can go and be the main man at. So I think there's a hedging of their bets in terms of the development of someone like James Maddison. And Ross Barkley is a player who's done well, did well in the games against Montenegro and Czech Republic recently, has scored goals for England. And then up top you've got captain Harry Kane, who Gareth Southgate will be delighted that he played the whole 90 minutes of the Champions League final. Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Callum Wilson. 3 options there for that central striker. You can have Harry Kane there, you can play Marcus Rashford there or Callum Wilson there, and then Jadon Sancho is that 4th player who will probably play out wide. Rashford can play out wide for you, as can Raheem Sterling. Our opponents, Holland, are very much similar to us in terms of they've had a real kind of renaissance and they've got a new, exciting, young team coming through. You've seen it with Ajax, and a lot of those players make their way into this Holland squad, but there's also a lot of players that you'll know if you're a Premier League fan. There's quite a strong lower Premier League contingent, people like Patrick van Aanholt, Nathan Ake, Davy Proper, players like that, Ryan Babel as well up top. But then you've also got some really exciting players who are going to go on and be world class. And that's what's going to be really interesting about this Nations League, and in particular this semi-final. You've got 2 teams that have had little wobbles along the last few years, but you've got 2 teams with really exciting players that are world class, or certainly going to be world class. Virgil van Dijk's an obvious one. Him and De Ligt. What a centre-back pairing that is going to be for the next 10 years probably. And then in front of him, Frenkie de Jong, Van der Beek, who hasn't always started for Holland in the game so far. And Wijnaldum, of course, another player that Premier League fans will know. It's probably up top where you're looking at Holland and you're going, they're a little bit weak. The front 3, it's Quincy Promes, it's Ryan Babel, and it's Memphis Depay. And the way that they play is they play as a front 3, but the 2 wide players look to cut inside and have quite fluid movement. They're a possession-based team, and they're not totally reliant on pace and power. It's a very, very Dutch side, but also one that you could say is quite robust when you look at the back line. It's very likely that they're going to match up to us in terms of a 4-3-3 formation. And there might be quite a similarity between that Tottenham and Ajax game, where you've got kind of the sort of pace and power of the England side, as opposed to the very Dutch, fluent, possession-based style of Holland. So it looks like Holland will shape up with a 4-3-3, but how will England set up, and how would I set up England? Well, I would go with what Gareth Southgate has done for the last 5 or 6 games at the very least. Of course, at the World Cup, they did play 3 at the back, but since then, Gareth Southgate has wanted to evolve the team, and with the new exciting players, people like Jadon Sancho, people like Callum Hudson-Odoi, they wanted to kind of move it forward to allow all these exciting attacking wide players and dribblers and pacey, powerful players to fit into this team in a way that's going to work. So here is my team, here's my 11. In goal, I'm going to go with Jordan Pickford. He's never let England down. He's the number 1 for me. Easy one. What isn't an easy one is left back. Danny Rose and Ben Chilwell both have had great seasons. Danny Rose has really, I was going to say come of age there, but he's come back to age, because it's the player that we saw a few seasons ago, in that season when maybe Leicester City won the league and Spurs had a great season. Danny Rose is getting back to that quality. He never really lets you down. In terms of choosing between these two, I'm going to go with Ben Chilwell. The reason for that is because I think when you look at that Dutch side, I'm not sure they've got a huge amount of pace, and I think they'll be looking for those overloads. The way that I'm going to set up here, it's quite similar to the way that Liverpool set up, actually. And with that in mind, I want those forwards to get on. And Ben Chilwell is very comfortable as an attacking left back. He likes to bomb down that wing. He likes to get crosses in, and I think he's a better fit for this team. In terms of centre backs, there's been quite a lot of rotation from Gareth Southgate, but I'm going to go with Harry Maguire and John Stones. The reason I say that is, again, because of the way that Holland play. It's not a crazy amount of pace, there's a lot of movement, but I think a lot of that will be almost in front of them. And because of that, there isn't that worry of needing severe pace in the other direction. I really love Joe Gomez, but I think this is maybe a little bit too early for him. I really don't know who are going to be the long-term centre-backs, and I think that's a great thing for England to have that kind of competition, which they're pretty much having everywhere now, which again is a really good sign for England. But for me, I think I would go with John Stones and Harry Maguire. The other reason for that being John Stones, I think, will be really up for this. He's had a little break from Man City where he hasn't really been playing, and he'll want to be a big part of a team. He's also a big leader in this England squad, I think, as well. So I would play John Stones and Harry Maguire. And at right back, I've gone for Kyle Walker, which, I mean, I know it's a little bit hypocritical when I've just said that this is going to be a Liverpool style in terms of how they're going to play, but I really do think that Kyle Walker is still the best right back in the Premier League. Liverpool fans, I'm sure you won't agree with me. And in time, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, will maybe surpass him. It will be interesting, but they have very different styles. The other reason I'm going to go with Kyle Walker is because in terms of defensive cover, if you've got John Stones and Harry Maguire there, if there is that counter-attack that Holland go for, then Kyle Walker is the kind of player that would be great at covering round and does that a little bit better than Trent, in my opinion. Into the centre of midfield, and it's probably the weakest area of this England team. There are a few players there that I think all fans have question marks, and the 3 that I've chosen, a lot of people still have question marks over. Henderson is going to be my defensive midfielder. Eric Dyer has played a hell of a lot for England, and I wouldn't be totally surprised if he plays in front of him. But Jordan Henderson, after the week that he's had, I think you want to just ride that train as far as you can. And he's an experienced player, a massive leader for England, for what is such a young team. For me, you've got to play him. So I play him in that defensive role. Okay, he's been playing in a bit more of an attacking role for Liverpool, but I think he's the best DM that we've got, especially when he hasn't brought Harry Winks along to be that guy who's almost that metronome. I'm surprised they didn't put Harry Winks in this squad, or maybe even James Ward-Prowse, because I think they could have been useful. Declan Rice is another option who could have played CDM, but I'm going to go with Henderson. I'm going to go with Barkley, mainly because he's been really, really good for England, and he does suit the style of play that Gareth Southgate wants to play. He's happy to get on the ball, he's happy to allow people like Kyle Walker to go beyond him down on the right hand side, and he's willing to drive through the middle of the pitch. That's a real strength that he offers to this England team, especially when we have people further up the pitch who are going to stay wide and look to go beyond. So he's got to cover a lot of ground, he's got to do a lot of work on the way back. That's a concern for me, the defensive side of this midfield. On the other side, I've got him with Dele Alli again. I'm just desperate for him to show me how great he can be. I haven't seen it yet. I also think when you've got a 3 in midfield, what I can see happening here is Harry Kane and Dele Alli working together, and Ross Barkley maybe sitting in that little bit more, being that little bit more disciplined in comparison to Dele Alli, allowing him to get forward, to be with Harry Kane, and to play those through balls whilst he's facing goal. That's when he's his best. I've kind of given it away already, but centre forward, I will go with Harry Kane. Look, the fact that he played 90 minutes was a massive thing for me. I think it is an ankle injury. It's very different. You can keep a certain element of fitness up. And if he's going to be that target man, which again, I've spoken about it being in that Liverpool style, he will be that target man for England. Look to get on the ball. You saw it against Spain in both of those games, that he got the ball, almost dropped in deep, like he did for Spurs and does for Spurs, and looks to spray those passes because he loves to do it, and he's very, very good at it. His hold-up play is very underrated because his goal-scoring record is so good. But he has to play, especially once he's had 90 minutes, and Gareth Southgate will be delighted with that. And then on either side, this is where it's very difficult. Raheem Sterling, that's not difficult. He has to play. On the left-hand side, I'm going to play Raheem Sterling. He's played there for Man City throughout the season. I think he's got a nice little bit of link-up play with Ben Chilwell, but I also like the way that he comes inside and picks up the ball. I think he'll have a little bit of a license to roam, to come in and get on the ball. And throughout this team, that fluid movement in terms of having great runners, people like Dele Alli, who's happy to go beyond. Ross Barkley, same thing. I don't think he'll do it as much in this, but people that are ready to go beyond is a massive thing, and it allows Raheem Sterling to show the other side of his game, which is to get on the ball in those half spaces with his low centre of gravity, turn and then play other players in. He's going to be massive for England in this game. On the other side, it's a really tough call here because Jadon Sancho has had a great season and had a really strong end to the season with Dortmund as well. His time is really on the horizon, and what's so exciting is the competition of Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Sterling, Kane. These are players who aren't going anywhere, and they're going to be battling out for a long time. In terms of these two, who do I pick, Rashford or Jadon Sancho? I'm going to go for Rashford, and the reason I'm doing that is because your form really can just switch by being in a different shirt, and the struggles that he's had with Man United, he had those same struggles earlier in the season when England played Spain, and he was still fantastic for England because there was almost like a respite from the pressures of Man United and being that main man. And I think he'll have that again if he plays. And the devastating counter-attacking play that England have been able to showcase when you have Rashford, a player who can play to feet or go beyond, Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling, who can do both as well. It's been devastating, and you saw that with some of the goals that they scored against Spain. So I would give Rashford the nod, but I would be excited by the players that we can bring off the bench. So that's my 11. Predictions? 2-0. Yeah? Why not? 2-0 England. We make it to the final, and then we'll be playing Portugal or Switzerland. Hopefully Portugal, because I'd love to rub their noses in it and wink at Ronaldo. Yeah, it still hurts. Yeah, I'm still bitter about it. But that is my team. Let me know your team in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video and you want me to do the exact same for the final, then why not hit the like button right now, just so I know, and it allows the video to do a little bit better. If you're new to the James Lawrence Allcott channel, there are so many weird different things on this channel. Things like the Process series, which are different interviews, or lots of other football videos if you want to check that out, or some bits and pieces about my life as well. So if you want to check them out, then they're in front of you right now. Go and click on them. I'll see you soon. Come on, England.